It's about time we uncovered some fossils. Fossil Set, that is. Released on October 10th, 1999, Fossil was the third main expansion to the Pokemon TCG that mostly completed the line of 151 Pokemon, where Mewtwo and Mew would follow shortly after to finish the original 151. Better late than never. While this set would shake up the metagame, we're not here to discuss that. What the Janjo region is here for is to look at the aesthetic of the set, much like what I did with Base Set and Jungle. The art of the cards in all aspects. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Muck, I'm looking at you, you sloppy jalopy. It's time to dive into Fossil's amazing art. First off, let's discuss the Molten Mallard, Magmar. Fossil Magmar has a much more dynamic image than base set Magmar's standard Ken Sugimori art with its fiery background. This new art appears to be in a volcano deep underground where magma has cooled down. The photographer discovers the Spitfire Pokemon as it turns around, potentially leading to a fatal fate. After all, its flavor text describes Magmar as one who hangs out nearby volcanoes and that it's rare to see them. Its moveset in Smokescreen and Smog definitely fit the more natural vibes, and that's something I really dig about Fossil. Omanite is a great example of this. Evolving from the mysterious fossil, I could have seen illustrator Kagemaru Himeno drawing up the spiral Pokemon in a lab or underwater tank. Instead, and for the better, we see what looks like Omanite's natural habitat, with the ferns and ruins in the background. In addition to the vibrant sunset, you get a strong sense of the past here, which fits given this card is an ancient monster. Even Omanite itself has a wonderful palette that I can only describe as something you'd view in a history book. Although long extinct, in rare cases, it can be artistically resurrected in Fossil. Speaking of, how could I discuss Fossil without bringing up the titular mysterious Fossil? While there's not terribly much to say considering its simplicity, it's nice that Keiji Kinabuchi added all three ancient Pokemon in the art: Omanite, Kabutops, and Aerodactyl. Technically speaking, it's missing Kabuto and Omastar, however the evolutionary line is represented nonetheless. This card makes for a great base to evolve these basic fossils into more realized Pokemon like the aforementioned Aerodactyl who flies above that emerald forest in a bygone era. This is to say, Fossil included more than ancient Pokemon. Ditto might be one of my faves. Regardless if you prefer 3D art or not, something about Ditto being a 3D render just fits. Ultimately, it is a created creature, rightfully designed in a lab of sorts. It has a sort of liminal vibe, with the checkerboard pattern going on seemingly to infinity, replicating the possibilities for Ditto's transformations. It's also quite funny when considering that this is probably the best Ditto will ever look since its design is so simple. Simple mons equals simple yet effective art, I suppose. If we're staying on vibes, Slowbro's got us covered next. At a distance, it looks like a straightforward gradient, yet on further inspection, you can actually see an ecosystem here. Purple grass, green bushes, and yellow clouds lead to striking imagery that feels almost as perplexing as I'm sure Slowbro is. The darker background palette only makes the hermit crab Pokemon's abundant pink skin stick out even further. Not as confusing as its pre-evolution Slowpoke. This dopey Pokemon is as simple gets, with a flat colored ground and sky, and a few turd-shaped clouds. Yeah, you see it too, don't you? Well, now you can't unsee it. Actually, Dragonite has a similar colorful background like Slowbro, but this one looks to be an even greater gradient in the color of a rainbow. Is rainbow a color? Yeah, if it's in the same biome, then you can see the familiar purple grass, green bushes, and yellow sky, which in this case might be sunflowers, or it bleeds into the dusk behind the large dragon. The art team behind Fossil clearly knew what they were doing with all these vibrant backgrounds. I mean, Graveler is no exception. It shows the set's strengths to showcase Pokemon with generally basic designs, because a Graveler in a plain background isn't particularly fun to look at nor trade on the playground. But a rock Pokemon throwing a rock around on a green patch with a mountain range in the background during a sunset only leads to a memorability factor. The grooves on Graveler absorb the highlights of the setting sun, making use of the Pokemon's design rather than using its existence as a selling point. For Charizard, a Graveler is not. Despite Fossils sounding like an aesthetically boring set, it really is anything but. Kingler features a tricolor tone, it's the same deal with its pre-evolution Krabby. Even Tentacruel has these yellow energy waves jetting across the art box. Zubat just about flies out of the orange caves. Or we can look at Grimer with the shadowy factory behind it and the gigantic full moon above that. On the contrary, Psyduck looking at its reflection with a fish jumping out of the water towards the sun's rays only brings these cards to life. It's pretty rare to see General Sugimori art like with Hypno and Hitmonlee. Thankfully, it's not abundant. At least if you're like me and prefer the more photogenic images like Horsey. But hey, at least there is OG art for those who appreciate the design choice. Compared to Jungle, Fossil had an uphill battle given its more abstract theming. Nevertheless, it managed to give life to these fossils by using a more vivid, warmer color tone. It created this imagination that you're sent hundreds of years into the mysterious past to witness these ancient beings, where Aerodactyls, Kinglers, and Weezings do exist in the real world. But what do you all think? Is Fossil an improvement from Jungle or additionally base set? Which is your favorite art from Fossil? Personally, Omanite has always stuck out to me for its color choice, shading, and general aesthetic. But that's just one of many amazing pieces of art here. If anything can be said about Fossil's art, is that it's absolutely timeless.